I'm Adrian Vale. Before we begin tonight's story, just one thing. If you've ever experienced something strange or disturbing, you can send it to me by email. I share real accounts like these with all of you. Tonight's story comes from Bergen, Norway. Our listener, Elena Sorvik, wrote to me saying, "I know how this sounds. I know what people will assume. Lack of sleep, stress, imagination. But I lived with it for 11 days, and by the end, I stopped turning on the lights." Elena insists every word of this is true, and after reading her account, I'm not sure I wanted to. Elena Sorvik was 29 years old. She worked as a night archivist in Bergen, cataloging old municipal records in a government storage building. Quiet job, long hours, little sunlight. She lived alone in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an older block near the harbor. Nothing dramatic in her life. No history of mental illness, no ghost stories, no need for attention. That was the first thing she wrote. Please don't read this as entertainment. I only want someone to know it happened. It began on a Tuesday morning. Elena had returned from a late shift and entered her kitchen just after sunrise. The room was filled with pale light through the window. She reached for the kettle and noticed something odd. Her shadow, cast across the floor by the window light, had half a second late. She lifted her arm. Then the shadow lifted its arm. A tiny delay, so small she laughed. She assumed exhaustion. She had worked 3 consecutive overnight shifts. She slept for 10 hours and forgot about it. The next evening, it happened again, this time in the hallway. She switched on the light, stepped forward, and her shadow remained still for a moment before following, not delayed by movement, still, then catching up. Elena turned off the light, turned it back on, normal again. She recorded a video on her phone. Nothing unusual appeared. The shadow behaved perfectly in the recording. By day 4, she stopped laughing because the delay was longer. 1 full second. Raise hand. Pause. Shadow copies. Take step. Pause. Shadow follows. And it only happened when she was alone. Whenever a coworker was nearby or someone video called her, it behaved normally. That detail disturbed her more than anything. It was as if it understood being watched. Elena told one colleague, Martin. He blamed fatigue and recommended time off. She almost agreed, until night 5. She entered the bathroom and switched on the ceiling light. Her shadow appeared on the tiled wall. She leaned toward the mirror, but the shadow did not. It stood upright while she bent forward. She froze. Then slowly, very slowly, the shadow turned its head toward her. Shadows do not have faces, but she knew when something was looking at her. She ran out of the bathroom and left every light on until morning. She moved lamps around the apartment, changed bulbs, closed curtains, used candles, different angles, different rooms. It made no difference. Wherever light created her outline, it was there, usually copying, sometimes delayed, sometimes not. On day 7, she stopped sleeping properly. She feared dawn and evening most. Low-angle light created longer shadows, longer shapes, more room for movement. That afternoon, while making coffee, she saw her shadow on the kitchen wall raise one hand to its mouth, a gesture for silence. Elena had both hands gripping the counter. She backed away so hard she knocked over a chair. The shadow resumed normal shape instantly. She called her brother and asked him to stay over. He came that night. They talked for hours. She never mentioned the gesture. She wanted to test something. Around midnight, She stood beneath the lamp in the living room. Two shadows formed, hers and her brother's, both normal, no delay, no movement. He left the next morning laughing kindly, telling her she needed rest. The moment the apartment door closed, she looked down. Only one shadow now, and it was facing the wrong direction. The light source was behind her. The shadow was in front. Elena wrote that she vomited immediately. Then she ran downstairs into the street. She stayed in a cafe until dark. She did not return home until she had to. Night 10. She packed a bag to stay at a hotel. Before leaving, she walked past the bedroom doorway. The lamp inside was on. Her shadow stretched across the bedroom wall. It was standing inside the room. Elena herself was still in the hallway. She had not entered. She wrote, "That was the first moment I understood it no longer needed me exactly in place." Then the shadow inside the room lifted an arm and pointed toward the bed. She never checked under it. She ran, left the apartment, left half her belongings, booked a hotel across town, and finally slept. The next morning she returned with the building manager. Broad daylight. Everything looked ordinary. No sign of disturbance, no break-in, no intruder, no explanation. But the manager asked an odd question while inspecting the bedroom. "Why did you paint over this?" Elena said she hadn't painted anything. He pointed to the lower wall beside the bed, a rectangular patch, slightly different shade. They scraped it gently. Under the fresh paint was an older penciled sentence written directly on plaster, in Norwegian. Translated, it read, "Do not let it learn your timing." Below it was a date, 1998. The apartment had belonged to a previous tenant who left suddenly after 9 days. No forwarding address, no further record. Elena never went back. She changed jobs, moved cities, and now keeps only indirect lighting in her home. No overhead bulbs, no bare walls, no strong silhouettes. She ended her email with this: "I can live without clear light. What I can't live with is the certainty that sometimes in bright rooms I still notice my shadow hesitate before following me." So tonight, when you switch off your lamp, take one last look at the floor, and if your shadow is not where it should be, don't move again to test it.